Season 5, Episode 8 of Bates Motel, The Body. Holy shit, they killed Chick!
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome, everybody, to AFTERBUZZ. Episode 8 of Season 5, The Body. This is Bates Motel. These two lovely ladies to my right were supposed to say "you bastards," but they chose not to out of spite and or malice.
Well, you just said you want to say bastards.
That's all you said. I didn't know what you were talking about.
You both know what you did.
And I'm like, every day.
Until you just explained it, I was like, well, it's funny. I don't know why, what just happened, but I feel like I was supposed to do something.
I thought I got a solid
Should we
nod
try it
from both
again?
of you. Nothing.
Okay.
No, it's too late now.
No,
That
now
ship
that
sailed.
I know.
It's
Holy shit, they killed Chick!
You bastards!
Still effed it up.
We did a rehearsal.
It's so nice to be here with you guys. Joe Braswell is not able to be with us today because, as I've said in the past, he's a bad person.
Worst.
Bastard! I am joined, however, by the lovely Du'a Kaissi.
Hi, welcome everybody.
And the fantastic Julia Cearley.
Hello.
And I'm Joe Sanfelippo. It is nice to be here with you guys. Lots of stuff went on this episode. It got serious.
Getting juicy.
What's the quote, Du'a, from that last scene? More
surprise than your brain would allow you to imagine.
Oh, man, we're on Thunder Mountain. This is the wildest ride in the wilderness. All right. So, Du'a Kaissi, what were your thoughts about this episode?
I thought bodies everywhere. Not a single one of them still living.
No, that's how come to bodies.
If you were curious as to whether or not Emma had a sliver of a hope as to whether or not Emma's mother was still alive, that
she gone.
Was just smashed today when...
You heard the sound effect.
That's an engineer on his game right
That's
there.
right. He's not playing.
I took your line. I thought this was great. I thought this was a great episode. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. We have 2 episodes left after this. Every episode now is just bittersweet to me, and I still don't know. After predictions last week, I still have no idea which direction they're going to go. No clue. I've stopped trying to decide.
No, it's almost more fun to just kind of like just
go along for the ride.
Take us on a journey, Carlton Cuse and Kerry Ehrin. What's the reaction, Julia Cearley?
Oh, come on. My reaction is always, I freaking love the show. It's so good to see Norman/mother, both of them in custody, and how they're trying to work around the sheriff and their approaches to what's going down. And mother in this episode was so badass.
Oh.
It was so cool to see her take over like that. That moment, I was like, ah! Slamming his head into the toilet.
Grim.
And I love to imagine these scenes as just like a spectator watching that, and him throwing his own head against the toilet.
I love that they got violent. Like, it wasn't like, honey, I'm going to take over. I mean, they could have, right? There's choices to be made. They could have done like some, what was the movie with Robert Downey Jr. where he has all the people he's taking along with him, all the ghosts that are inhabiting his body.
What's that movie called?
But they jump into him,
Yeah.
and now they're in the body. They could have done that kind of shit, but they're like, no, we'll just have her beat the living shit out of Norman.
Well, Norman and Mother have gotten very physical in the last few episodes.
Yeah.
From that moment that he threw her to the ground and was strangling her in the woods.
Right.
And from there, it's escalated. They've slapped each other around. They had a big fight on the kitchen table. Like, they are really physically at odds as well as mentally right now.
Dude,
it's almost like the physicality is actually... it's representative and very symbolic of where they're getting to at just how critical this is getting. I mean, she was very motherly when she kind of took him in her arms and nurtured him, but it's getting to critical mass. And so this is just the fight. They're showing through the physicality, the fight that he's having internally. It's actually a physical fight. That's how they can beat each other up, and they're getting really physical now.
Well, let's go to the top of this thing. First interrogation is with Norman, the sheriff and Norman, and that is a very, very different interrogation than what we have later on. But yes. Norman, she doesn't really... I was sitting there watching that scene, I'm like, don't let him go! Don't let him go!
Yeah, I thought he was going to get away with it.
I thought he was too.
I was like, oh my God.
You know what I think, Norman? I think you're doing this for attention. I'm like, he's not doing it for attention. He absolutely kills people.
I loved her explanation that he developed an adult affect You know, that he's like
yeah.
putting on his adultness because that's the only way he could deal with what he's been left with
did
after
you see
his mother's suicide.
That next shot of him and his collar was slightly askew.
It was so
I was like,
interesting.
oh, that is his adult affect. That's so good.
That's, you know, let's back up for just 1 minute. Can I talk about the very, very opening scene where it's Norman with his eyes closed after everything has just happened in his house, and Sheriff Green is looking at him, and he's having this internal struggle with himself. He opens his eyes, and Mother is like
every time
storming
he
towards
looks
him.
over his left shoulder, not for anything, but it was his left shoulder. We had a little left shoulder thing here in the studio. Anyway,
No,
some
we-
people don't
we
like.
We don't.
Some
You
people.
did.
Someone has an issue with looking over
I don't like looking over my left shoulder.
shoulder.
And I'm just saying that's where Norman was looking. Left shoulder. There's Mom coming down the hallway, hell bent
That was
for him.
scary.
Yeah.
charging him.
Yes.
I can't see you. I can't see you.
And immediately he was like, I want my medication. My brother has my medication. I want my medication. I want to go. I want to turn myself in. This is the innocent Norman, right? And what I find so interesting about this whole episode is that I feel like after that first interrogation, he was completely and totally honest. And yet Sheriff Green couldn't see him as doing anything because he didn't do anything. It was Mother that did everything the whole time. So the fact that Mother took over mid-episode, I think actually hurt him. She
With
thought
the
that,
sheriff.
Yes,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden now he's being entitled. He's acting really, what's the word for it? He was just really condescending. And he was like, I want my lawyer. And then all of a sudden now he's taking on the persona of guilt because this is Mother who did do it all. So I think that that's really interesting. Had Mother just backed off and not taken over, I think that he would have gotten out of it after that first interrogation.
What was so cool about this episode with Mother taking over is that we've always only seen Norman dressing up as Mother, and now we're seeing Mother dress up as Norman. In that moment where she like fixed her collar to look like Norman would, I was like, this is twisty.
So
this
we
is
have-
getting really deep.
Yeah.
We have
And
a
Mother
mental
acting
construct.
like Norman versus Norman
Oh.
acting like Mother.
It's so deep.
I love this show.
Can you say the mental construct thing in the Albert Einstein voice?
So he has a mental construct at this time is taking over the body of the boy and pretending to be the boy. So as to convince the sheriff that the boy did nothing wrong. Of course, the sheriff is on to the speech.
That's really good.
I like that.
Did you buy it?
I
Were you
did.
in? E equals MC squared, bitches. We got this.
Ooh.
Yeah, next week, our guest, Albert Einstein, will be chiming
It's going to
in.
go on forever. So the first interrogation, we have this confrontation with Norman, obviously, and it's gentle. And he's got a map, and he's pointing to the map, and oh, Norman, that's not where you pointed last time. He's like, well, shit, I don't know. It was around there. It was snowing. So
All
she's
he knows
not
is that he killed Sam Lewis. That's
definitely
all
killed
he
it.
knows.
And he's confessed, and he's
Yes.
given detail, but
Yes.
she's not buying it. Then we go back. Mother does the beatdown, which we already talked about a little bit. Which I find Mother to be. It's such an interesting thing because you know that I don't know if you guys know. Maybe you don't know that I think Vera Farmiga is possibly the finest actress of
I
her
would
generation.
too.
By
That's an interesting
I
thought.
may or may not have mentioned that in the past.
odd.
I don't know. However, it's interesting to watch her only playing one character. We were talking about this earlier when we were outside. She's only really playing Mother, and it seems like, and it's funny to me because it's disappointing. I'm like, we don't get to see her, being able to spread her wings all the way. But her choices in that scene, or the choices they all made, like the physicality, which we talked about, is so vicious, so over the top, but making him puke up the pill too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going anywhere, mother, father, and so gross. And then she cleans him up. That was so Mom.
Yep.
She wipes him up with that Mother stuff, and then whang, the head goes down.
Well, last week I think I talked about this, I talked about this a little bit last week, that she, like, Mother is jonesing to take over. When they were walking back after getting rid of car,
Yeah,
something.
body. It was Sam Loomis's body.
Yeah, that's
It was the car.
She's like,
yeah.
if
car was
it's too much for that's why they were walking. They got rid of the car. If it's too much for you, like, I'll take over. I'm happy to do it.
Look, I got
I
this.
can do it. I can fix this. And now this was her time. She's like, I'm gonna fix it. I
Yeah.
can do it. Only I can do this. Let me in. Let me in.
Let's not forget though that the Mother persona is still Norman. It's just the other half side, the other half of Norman's brain. So he's still thinking like a 17, 18-year-old boy. So when Mother wants to take over this evil part of his brain, she is still making decisions that aren't exactly getting her out of this pickle.
Of course. She's still a mental construct. So she's only able to be as good as Norman. She's never gotten, she doesn't have the full capacity of Norma because she's not Norma. You're right.
Can I sidebar something really quickly?
I think we have no choice. You're doing it.
So interesting is that after we see Sheriff Green again, and now Mother has taken over, and Norman has this huge gash on his forehead because he's banged his own head against the toilet. Sheriff Green is like, what happened? He's like, oh, I'm all arms and legs, and this is a small cell. As a sheriff, wouldn't you look at a tape? Like, wouldn't you be curious to look at, like, the cell tape of what the hell was going on to see Norman tossing himself around the screen?
Law enforcement personnel that may or may not be listening to this, if you know what how that actually works, please let us know, because we could assume that, but we don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible that inmates hurt themselves all the time because maybe they want to go to, I'd rather go to the infirmary, or I have a plan. If I hit my head, you got to take me to the hospital, and I can get out at the hospital. I mean, I don't know.
Give me your shoelaces, Norman.
Right? So who knows? Well, you know, there's a bunch of different reasons for that. But I would imagine that they had to have a writer's meeting. This writer staff doesn't miss anything, so they probably
Well,
decided.
it is just a holding cell. Maybe they just don't have a camera in a holding cell because there's a huge window there.
Or I mean,
it was an opportune moment.
I think that's got to come out at some point. There needs to be a scene where Sheriff Green sees without Norman's knowing, and I think that's what she was looking for in the interrogation room. She's like, I want him to feel like he's being watched. So maybe there wasn't a camera in the holding cell. That's why she moved him to the interrogation room later.
And they do make very clear that we want him to feel uncomfortable. Yeah, maybe.
So there's got to be something that comes out. The tip top of Norman's insanity has to be viewed by Sheriff Green at some point.
But in the meantime, we're gonna lawyer up with Julia Ramos.
Julia.
This lady was amazing.
I thought she was like a private detective at first, or like a
straight out of CSI.
Oh, she's hardcore.
She's pretty badass.
Yeah, she's got the slick back hair and the dramatic like downward gaze going.
Can I ask you a very ignorant question? I mean, I have daughters, but I how do you get a ponytail that extreme? I mean, that ponytail was not in the fucking around business. Did you see how tight that was?
Yeah.
Painful. It gives
and
me
a
a
lot
headache.
of times the tail part, when it's that long, isn't their real hair.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's not.
You're saying Julia Ramos might be sporting like a horsetail,
like an extension? Yeah.
All right.
A lot of times. Oh, I mean, a lot of times it is. Yeah. I mean,
are you wearing real hair now? I mean, what's
I
happening?
have real hair on now. Isn't it
I
obvious?
have my real hair on right now.
It's my own. I'm proud to say I grew it myself.
All right, so if ever I see a ponytail that extreme, it may or may not.
Yeah,
be.
don't
Liar.
Don't ask them.
That's what you're gonna say.
Yeah, don't ask. No.
Yeah, don't ask.
So is that you're gonna kick my ass now? Okay, I see. That's fair.
I want an F with Julia Ramos.
No.
Yeah.
So Julia Ramos is hired by Dylan based on the recommendation from
Remo.
From Remo.
Remember
from
Remo?
back in the day.
Blast from the past.
Yeah.
Remo, little grizzled dude.
Yep.
Whatever happened to Remo? Do we know?
Did he
don't remember.
get shot?
Did he get shot? Something happened to him.
That
I don't
sounds
remember
like
what it
it
was.
could be possible.
I don't remember.
So many bodies in this joint.
Yeah.
All right. So
Right, so we have
she
Julia.
lawyers up with Julia, and then we have that meeting with Julia and Norman, which is very different than the meeting with the sheriff and Norman. This is a different meeting. This is Mom, and Mom's making sure, bitch, you work for me. You don't work for Dylan. We're not. What did she say? We're not going to the mental. We're not going.
Yeah, if I know what Dylan told you, probably that I'm crazy. If we're going to the mental institution, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work. So that's pretty much what that was communicated right there. No mental institution. That's not what's happening.
And then we have the idea, right? We float the idea of maybe if Norman didn't
There
do
is
it,
a body.
if there happens to be something in a well somewhere. Just saying, hypothetically, we should probably be able to say who did put that body there,
Somebody else must have done it.
because it wasn't you.
No,
right?
no. Someone else must have done that.
And I love. Did you see that smirk on her face?
Yes.
Oh, I love
Yes.
that. And that's the genius of Vera Farmiga, is that she's already tick, 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 tick in her head, and just that small little subtle smirk of, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw Miss Madeline Loomis under the bus.
Man, oh man.
Which
I didn't see that coming.
say that she was going to go down for it. I
Did you?
predicted that a few weeks ago, that somehow Madeline was going to go down for for the murder. But at that time, I thought it was going to be Marion Crane.
She does have Patsy written all over her, doesn't she? She
Kind
does.
of.
She kind of
She's so gullible.
don't know anything that's happening right now.
So naive.
But it's also kind of, I think, a little short-sighted from Mother Norma's perspective. It's like if you really think about the story that Mother told, actually almost implicates Norman.
It 100% implicates
Because
him
it
as
now
an
gives him
accessory.
it now gives him a motive. Like if he knew where the body was, confessed to the crime,
Right.
and now he's handing Sheriff Green a motive, saying I was in love with her.
Well, that takes us to our second interrogation, right? So he's basically she puts out the story, Mother puts out the story that Norman is just so stupid, and he's so infatuated, and he doesn't know that he's being used, and he feels like I very clearly I was a soft target. I think he doesn't say it that easily, but I think that all flows until you dig up the other two bodies, and Madeline Loomis didn't even live in town at that point. So you've been whacking people longer than you've been being used by Madeline Loomis in your game here.
But one conversation with Madeline Lewis, and it would all go out the window. Like you could see when Sheriff Green had that conversation with Madeline, she had no clue that her husband was even missing. She didn't have any idea that, like, not once. She didn't even report him missing because she thought that he ran away with Rihanna under the umbrella.
Right.
And so, so that they were gone together. So the fact that he's dead came as a total shock to her. And Miss Sheriff Green is the queen of, I'm going to tell you a piece of information and wait for your reaction.
Absolutely.
Right.
She plays that so well with every single character that
Yep.
she interacts with.
Yeah.
What do they call that? The pregnant pause technique? I'm gonna wait for you to say something stupid. No. And I think we talked about this. I got a couple friends that are cops that they do that shit on instinct. Not our buddy Jamie. He doesn't do it. But I got another buddy who does it like it's constant. And you have to like stop him. You know what? You need to stop that. And you need to actually have a conversation. This leading shit has got to stop. Because eventually I'm going to implicate myself, but I didn't even do anything wrong.
Yep. Where were you on the night of April 7th?
Damn you! So we have our second interrogation with Mother and Julia Ramos and the sheriff, and it is nowhere near as nice. It is very contentious, but they are still going to hold. They're going to hold Norman regardless. That's happening. Now we have this. Then we go back to the hotel. Doesn't Chick rolls up in what has got to be the oldest operating car in the Pacific Northwest?
The return of the prodigal son.
Chick doth returneth.
Ah.
And he's sporting a raccoon, and he's pissed.
Yeah. Well, would you call him pissed?
I wouldn't call him pissed.
Well, he seemed mad once he found out. Did he slam that raccoon around pretty good?
He was tossing that raccoon.
Yeah, he was. He seemed panicked to me that Norman was dead. Like that was a real moment. Like that's his real friend. Like he really loves Norman. He has love for Norman.
That guttural sigh of relief when he found out that is he dead? Is he dead? He's like, oh.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I want to ask you about. Do you think that sigh was about the book or about Norman?
I think both.
Think
I
so?
do. Yeah, I think both. I think he really has affection towards him.
You think he loves him enough to warrant
loves
the
him.
sigh?
I think he's fascinated by him. You know, and at the
kindred
end,
spirits.
which obviously we'll get to, yeah, they're kindred spirits. He has the heart of an artist, the soul of an artist, and Chick, if nothing else, appreciates artistry
Well, I'll
in
tell you
all
what.
its forms.
They may be kindred spirit. One of them's a spirit now. Ho! There's a guy. Shot in the head. Am I the only one that was really surprised by how physically large Chick actually is? That they cast that tiny little chica as the sheriff's deputy. She's like 3.5 feet tall, or maybe she's a 5-footer, and Chick is just big. Didn't he look huge next to her?
Yeah. Well, he was also. I'm sure it was the clothing as well. But yeah, he's a big fella.
boy.
Yeah, and he's wearing all the clothes. I think
the
those
show he was
he's wearing
on
everything.
All the
Sons of
clothes.
Anarchy. He's huge there too.
Was he huge? I never watched
Yeah,
Sons.
his
I don't
size didn't change from this show to that show.
That does make sense. There's a certain rationale for that. So we know now that Chick has returned with the raccoon that we all know will now never be stuffed.
Unfortunately.
Raccoon's just going to have to kick it there and be
So
stiff.
much for that art dealer.
Well, at least not in this
Seattle.
episode.
Maybe Norman gets away and stuffs some more stuff.
I don't know if we have time for that. We only have a couple episodes left. Are we
Nobody
really
got
going to
time
stuff a
for that.
coon? Stuff a raccoon?
All right, so Chick returns with the raccoon. Then we go back to then we cut over and we got Romero sneaking out was sneaking out of the girlfriend's house of the girl's house last week or this week?
That was
This week.
That was this week.
Yeah.
Pulls the gun.
Gets the gun.
Now, did it seem to you guys that he had a moment where he's like, "Am I going to have to kill her?"
Yes, I thought the same exact thing.
I was like, Romero, don't kill her.
Yeah, I thought the same exact thing. She took you in. She healed you. You can't kill her.
He thought about it. He did, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Internets, what do you think? Tell me if you thought Romero thought about killing her, because I think he gave it a good like 5 second. I'm gonna have to kill her.
Well, I think he's just aching to kill somebody. Like he's full of vengeance
Well,
right
he's not
now.
aching anymore. If it was an ache, I think he
Yeah.
stretched that out a little bit. I
Like-
think he might be feeling a little better after blowing
Yeah.
Chick's face off.
Talk about your itchy trigger finger.
Well, I think he had to think about it because I think he had to make that decision in that moment if this really is a suicide mission or just a mission. You know, like was he planning on like murder suicide over here?
I don't know.
Was he planning on going back to jail
I
for murdering
talked
Norman?
about this a couple weeks ago because once he got shot and he was that wound was clearly festering a little bit. I think in his mind it became a one-way shot. This was it. I'm just going to go do this, and then at the end of that, who cares? But now he's healed up, so now he's got to make that choice. I think now that he's healed, it doesn't make any sense because when you got a festering wound and you know all you're going to do is I'm going to get to this guy, I'm going to kill this guy, and then I can die. But now your festering wound is gone. It's healed. Now you've got choices again.
So if that's the case, he had to make the choice whether he was going to kill her or not because she's an eyewitness
Right.
to him.
And so he decided to let her go.
Yeah.
Let her live. Gets to the house, starts tripping his brains off.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm beginning to think it's the house that turned Norman crazy. Like after when he walks back in that house, it's been 18 months since Romero has been in that house. And of course, everything, as soon as he gets in there, everything reminds him of her. Everything smells like her still, I'm sure. But I'm beginning to think it's that haunted house that turned Norman insane.
Well, I mean,
Well, he was insane already.
I was gonna say he whacked Dad in Arizona,
Yeah.
if I recall.
Yeah.
But I've been to Arizona, so I mean, I understand. I mean, Arizona. Arizona's a state-sized
ya?
haunted house. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Arizona, but you know, if you live there, I'm sorry. That's you're
It's
flipping
hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot. There's no water. There's none. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't do deserts.
So I don't get it at all. I'm
don't
like,
do
why?
deserts.
And there's all that
awful.
sand and no beach. I don't get it.
Don't get it.
So he whacked Dad in Arizona, but I mean, the house might be what pushes him over the edge again and
Yeah.
again.
It's a little Amityville horror to me.
It is.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But he sees the ghost. So Romero comes in. Norma is ghosting, and Romero with his eyes all beat up.
Man, he's
And
looking rough.
He's looking rough.
Really rough.
Looks like an avenging angel. All you got to do is get through the next few feet, my man. and they start lighting him from her aura.
Yeah.
Neat choice, right?
Yeah.
Because now it feels more real. And then you bring up on how jacked up his face is, and he follows her up the stairs.
Kudos to Freddie Highmore, who directed this episode.
He did good,
for
that
making
Freddie
these
Highmore.
choices.
Yeah.
It was an interesting choice. It was a little bit more like ethereal than we usually go with in this show.
Which is what we talked about earlier, about her beating the shit out of him to get into the body, instead of doing like the inhabit the body thing. And yet, later on in the episode, we do the ethereal Norma
seeing
action.
ghosts and the aura and her going up the stairs and all lit, ghostly. It was interesting. We haven't seen that before. It just sort of showed.
I think it shows Romero's state of mind.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like he's probably dehydrated. He still has the wound. He's at the end of his journey almost, and he's he's like seeing stuff.
Yeah.
He's almost a little fucked up. So he's going on this, and I think that it was a perfect choice you want to pepper it in, but you don't want to make it too wooey because then it's not really believable.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was the sweetest thing in the world that he fell asleep in her bed though.
Oh.
It was really, but at this point he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know that
No.
Norman isn't there. So is he just going to pass out and just wake up when he gets there to kill him?
Well, I guess it's entirely possible that he just fell out. I mean, he wasn't well enough to be doing what he's doing.
It seemed that he went to the house with the intention to kill Norman, and the house, like the second he walked in that house, the idea of Norman was just gone. It was all Norma for him. It was all
Well,
like being
it's true. He
connected
did.
to
You're
Norma
100%
again.
right. He didn't run around the house
No,
with the
he wasn't
gun
looking for
checking every
Norman.
room.
He didn't
That's
care.
true. No,
No, he was
right up
reconnected with his
he,
love.
He followed the ghost up the stairs. Then he
Yeah.
went into the room. She was powdering her face.
Yeah, Norman could have been anywhere. We
And-
didn't care.
Do you think that maybe because of the police tape on the motel side that he knew that like Norman wasn't going to be there?
he
or
still
knew
snuck up the
something?
side, Like
I don't know if
true.
you even saw the police tape. I don't get the.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in that scene.
I didn't
Did
see.
you guys
I
see
looked and I didn't see
it?
it.
I went
That doesn't
back.
mean it wasn't there.
I don't think it was there.
Yeah, I looked for
But
it. I
he
was
snuck through
interested in
that. He snuck through that part of the L. He didn't really see the other side of the hotel, so that's entirely possible that the tape was only over there.
front.
But when Chick showed up, I thought it was the whole hotel.
Well, and mind you, I love the fact that Chick shows up in a car, tosses around a raccoon, leaves, and then obviously sneaks back in the late hours of night because Romero wakes up. And I love how they did that. They had him wake up to the voice of Norman.
Yes.
So smart.
So he's looking for Norman in the house and goes down to the basement where Mother's body was. And in my favorite scene of the whole episode, there is this exchange between Chick and Romero. And I thought last week that somehow Romero was going to kill Dylan, that he was going to see a shadow and think it was Norman, but it was going to be Dylan. He was going to accidentally kill Dylan in his rage. Instead, he kills Chick, but not before they have a witty, well-written, brilliant exchange.
Let's talk about that because this to me was interesting. It changed Romero for me.
Yes.
Because there was no real reason to kill Chick other than a disgust at his macabre, obvious accessoryhood, I guess you would say, his willingness to be an accessory, his willingness to watch this all burn, to record it. But that's not kill worthy. That's like, hey, you're kind of being a dick and you're being creepy, but that's not, I'm going to kill you for that. But one other thing we didn't say earlier that I thought we should talk about is Romero's code. He, and what's her name?
His own moral code.
His own moral code. And I think one of the things that the scene with the ghost brought out, because his face was so weathered, it hit me in that scene, I'm sorry. It hit me in the face. It hit me in that scene that he's wearing that code on his back, on his face. All those choices, if you live by the law, right? We all agree that these are the rules and we all accept them. Then you've taken the onus off yourself to decide what's right and what's wrong because it's already been decided for you. And you kind of go, okay, I'm going to follow the rules. That way I don't have to be burdened with all these choices. But he's been in a position to be in control of all those rules and whether or not those rules get enforced. And he's been in this gray town where, pot was illegal, but it was the big moneymaker in the town. He was dealing with all the gangsters for all those years. And he was dealing with everything in between. And so he's worn that moral ambiguity for all these years, and here it is coming to its final place, right? In his moral code, I'm going to kill this little bastard because he killed my wife, and that's it. I don't need to see him go to a mental institution. I don't need to see him go through I'm going to do it. But it was all on his face.
Yep.
I felt like that wear and tear was there from all those choices. I'm sorry, I just felt like we should say that before we moved on.
That was beautiful.
Well
Was
said.
it? Yeah.
Well put.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
So we're at the scene with Chick.
I'm
and
not going to
Romero.
put my hands up. That's stupid. One of my favorite lines. He takes off in this great, I love the way that scene was lit. I love, everything. He's got the thing. He's playing with the candy. Ryan Hurst, who plays Chick,
Right.
has these brilliant choices. When Nestor Carbonell was on here, he talked a lot about how they'll find things to play with in scenes, props, things. So how he was tossing around the raccoon in the scene before and how he was picking up the candy and then throwing it down. And he's like, I'm writing a book. And how it was so brilliant, everything in that scene. And it wasn't the way they wrote it wasn't insanely crazy, but I just have to think if somebody handed me a piece of paper and a pen and they're like, all right, write a scene between Chick and Romero right now, what would that look like? I don't know what I would do. I just think that they did such a great job.
So let's get into the scene. Let's get into the meat of it because I think there was a lot of stuff said by Chick that becomes, kind of like the reason for some of the things we've seen for the last few episodes. So he had that one line that you really liked.
The line right before his brains get blown out.
That's the one.
Which is I find ironic because it was a surprise that he was killed. More surprise than the brain would allow you to imagine.
Right? No one would believe this. Life is stranger than fiction. Isn't that right? Right? Real life, true crime, isn't that what you're saying? True crime always trumps, or
Yep.
I don't remember how he says it.
Yeah, and then he's also, you make true adversaries.
You make perfect, worthy adversaries.
And he's almost like, you guys, and I don't know if maybe it was the anger in Romero, if you break up the anatomy of the scene, it was the anger in Romero where it's like, you're going to reduce me down to a book character.
I agree.
And you're writing a book about this, you're going to exploit it. And this is what, people have died. He's crazy. And it was so beautiful when he was like, you think he's crazy. And Romero said, he is crazy. He killed his mother. And he goes, yes, but he also loved his mother. So he's siding with Norman during this exchange. And it's just, it's just such a great scene. It's a moment.
Oh my God, you just killed me.
We've taken Du'a Kaissi rather aback.
I just thought thought it was so well done, that scene. You know, like if you're a writer, you have these little like traditions that you do. The way like you set up your room or your cup of coffee or your favorite mug or something like that. And to see the way that Chick had to set up his writing space, his head space, to be in that freezer that in the basement, because he wanted to feel like she felt. He wanted to know what it's like to be adored like a queen, with these candelabras everywhere and his big headpiece and his costume. And that's how he's going to sort of imagine this and take it all in and put it on the page. I think Romero coming down and seeing that, and what you said, being reduced to this character, to this trope, to a storyline. What do you say? He said the sheriff who escaped prison on a mission to avenge the woman he loves from her murderous sick son. He's like, I have to write it down. Fuck you. You know what?
So,
fuck you. That's it.
So that's why, because that's my next question is, why does Romero kill him? You think that's it?
I think it was fuck you. Yeah.
You know what?
You don't know what this is like.
Fuck you.
You're not
Yeah.
writing this book.
That's
I'm glad
it.
you're enjoying this, asshole.
Yeah.
But fuck you.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
He sees the beauty and the artistry in this sick scenario, and it's sad because up to this point, Chick was one of the only, funny parts to this story.
Yeah, so
And he was-
eccentric.
and is gone.
well, I mean, it's interesting to me. Like, this is Chick fully realized. Like, he's in the mausoleum. He's
His
like you said.
element.
He's lit
Oh.
the candelabras. He's got his shit dialed out, and he dies in his element.
Yeah.
He dies in exactly. I mean, as an artist, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yep.
But you think Romero killed him just because you've reduced me to this thing, and I'm not okay with that, and that's too much.
I think it was an emotional choice.
An emotional choice. You don't think he
Definitely.
tick all through all the bullshit and went, I know what'll happen. Chick will get arrested, but nothing will happen.
Think about the amount of information he got in a really short time. Norman is in jail, so he's like, shit, I can't kill him right now. He's in jail, right? He had this itch. He dug up his mother.
I think that might be
yes.
that might be the part.
And he was like, what? And he like
The horror on his face.
where is she now? So I almost think that now, after he's done this, I almost think he's gonna go look for Norma in some odd way. Like he's almost more interested in Norma. Like he got to the house and Norma was all he saw. So it's almost like this obsession to find Norma now is gonna overcome Romero. I don't know what's going on in his head, but he was not mentally stable on this suicide mission, and this was just not a good convergence to get all of this information at once. And then, but he's been brought up to speed.
He's brought up to speed, and he's also losing it a little bit. He's seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
Like
true.
he's not well.
Oh, we got to wrap this up pretty quick. He's in a very fragile state. That is a very fair, that is a
Yes.
very fair point. But I have to confess, I did not have time to watch the entire episode until we were here, and I was in the bathroom finishing the episode. Not my proudest moment, but I do believe
The AfterBuzz Studios.
in the AfterBuzz Studios bathroom,
Oh, sweet
and
Lord.
I do believe whoever
Anybody have
walked
some air
past,
freshener?
somebody had to walk past the bathroom and hear me go, no, because he blew him away, and that was my reaction. No. So if somebody after Buzz walked past the bathroom and heard somebody, I wasn't yelling at myself. I was yelling at Romero. All right, so Romero has now blown away Chick, and now we cut back to the interrogation room where they've had Norman kind of cooling, as it were, Norma cooling, as it were, and we have our last confrontation with Norma and the sheriff, and
Yep.
she just comes in real quick and she drops it on him.
Yeah, they found two more bodies.
Two more
Jim,
bodies.
Jim Blackwell and
Audrey
Emma's mother.
Ellis.
Yep, Emma's mother. Those are two bodies. Had, like you said before, Madeline Loomis wasn't even in the picture then, so there goes his story right out the window. And he's been now charged with their murders as well. And, we had a brief conversation where Sheriff Green so kindly went up to Dylan and knocked on the door at the King's Motel and said, hey, you know what? This
We
is
did
a
skip
choice.
that, yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is a choice for you now. You can either cooperate with us or you can choose your family, which is an interesting choice for Dylan because he's been motivated by family this entire show. So this is going to be a hard choice.
Well,
for him.
now
Also
he's gotta
remember,
decide
he's
what
racked
family.
with guilt over his mother's death because he feels responsible because he already abandoned them.
Yep.
So his sense of loyalty, when he abandoned his loyalty to his family, that's when all this shit went down.
Yep.
So now I think he bears
Well-
he feels that he bears the
Well,
responsibility.
let me just toss this in here. His family is sitting on a park bench in the snow, and that's his family. His family's Emma and the baby, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is the choice that he has to make. I think that's essentially what she's saying. The choice is your loyalty to family, but which family?
Yeah.
Is your loyalty to this family that's dead, essentially, or to your new family that's very much alive
Yeah,
and
it's-
represents the future for you?
It's not
And-
going to be easy, but it's right.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys noticed. I think they shoot They consistently shoot Emma and Dylan's life in it's Portland, right?
They're in Seattle.
Are they in Seattle?
Yeah.
Bright colors,
Yep.
bright choices,
Yes. Outside
everything.
in
yes.
the sun.
And if they're inside the house, it's oranges and yellows and it's bright. And everything shot in what's it called, White Pine Bay.
Dark
Everything's
blue.
dark, blues, greens. Everything's dark. That's no joke. That's no accident. And I think Dylan obviously has to make a very, very serious choice very quickly, or he's going to be a tragic character, which we don't want. We
want him to live happily ever
Yeah,
after.
we don't want Emma to live with some sort of partially whacked child, because you know there's a pretty good chance that child's going to be flipping nuts anyway. He's got crazy genes in there.
So predictions, real quick. Is Norman going to live or die at the end of this series?
I think he lives.
I think he lives.
Yeah?
Yep.
That's my thought. What do you think, Du'a Kaissi?
I don't know. I want to say he's going to die.
Well, we got 40 seconds. You think he's dying?
I think he's dying, and
All
the
right, let's
predictive
play-
pen says without a doubt.
Okay, so let's play the real fast round of live or
Okay.
die. Romero, live or die?
Dead.
Die.
Die. I think we all agree on that. The Sheriff Green, live or die?
Lives.
Yeah.
Dylan, live or die?
Lives.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, we got a lot of livers over here. And
We've lost a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. I would say chick, but we know the answer for that. All right, we got to wrap it up. It was a pleasure being here with you guys. Du'a Kaissi, where can the kids find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at Du'a Kaissi, DuaKaissi on the Twitters.
Very nice. Julia Cearley.
Twitter and Instagram with my name, Julia Cearley, JuliaCearley.
And you can find me on the Twitters at Joe Flippo, JoeFlipo. It was a pleasure being with you guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.